In the last episode, we took a look at issue 1 of what is one of my favourite comic books of all time. Back in 1995, when for one crazy summer, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre went down. Right on Friday the 13th, two horror legends met and clashed and butted heads for the first time ever. So in this episode, we're going to look at issue 2 of this fucking triumph, Jason vs. Leatherface. So in the last episode of this series, we took a look at Jason vs. Leatherface issue 1. And in that comic, we saw Jason get dredged at the bottom of Crystal Lake, placed on a freight train, he carved up a few victims, the train crashed and he ended up in Texas, where he hooked up with the Sawyer family. Initially, we thought that Jason and Leatherface would be fighting for this entire comic, but it turns out when they meet, unexpectedly, they become friends. Jason makes his way back to the Sawyer household, and when we last saw him, he was sitting down to eat dinner with them. So this brings us to part 2 of the story, and just talking a little bit about the cover first of all, this one is fucking wacky. Again, it's illustrated and painted by Simon Bisley, and it shows Jason sitting down to eat with the Sawyer family, and they're serving up this poor dead girl who looks like she was once really beautiful and now she's just this chopped up slab of meat. She's been dressed and garnished with various fucking eyeballs. There's also greenery on the table, which is really funny because I can't imagine any of these guys ever eating vegetables ever. Jason's drawn very different in this one to what he is on the front cover of the first issue. This mask looks a lot more like the traditional Jason looking mask, and it also looks like he's put him in his best dinner suit. And very much like the first cover, the style of this is classic Bisley. It's dark, it's macabre, it's cartoony, but it's realistic at the same time. It's that perfect painted 90s comic book cover vibe. The most interesting thing about this whole scene though is that this features a ton of family members that are not even in the Sawyer family, that are nothing to do with this cover. We've got Grandpa, we've got Hitchhiker, we've got Leatherface, and we've got Jason, but who are all these other random people? Who are these fucking kids? Every time I see these, it's just like Bisley was doing his own thing with these covers. It's almost like they just gave him a rough outline of what these comics was about, and he just went off and did it, just did his own thing. It's fucking wacky, it's out there, but it just fucking works. Also, I never mentioned this on the last comic, but the way that they've wrote Jason versus Leatherface, with the big verses slashing through both of the names, and Leatherface looking like it's stitched together from pieces of skin, that's fucking awesome. The first page of the book opens to a flashback, and we know it's a flashback because it's in that black and white style blue tone that always means flashbacks in comics. And it says, "The water is so much darker than he thought from the shore. It looks so bright and sparkly and pretty. Jason doesn't really know how to swim. The camp counselors tried to teach him along with the other kids, but he just couldn't get the hang of it. He shouldn't have gone back into the water without a buddy. All the counselors said so, but no one at Camp Crystal Lake wanted to be his buddy. And it was so hot, and the water looked so inviting. Where are the lifeguards? Where are the counselors? Why isn't anyone trying to save him?" As Jason calls for his mommy, we see a speech bubble of someone telling him to wake up. "Stir your stumps and take your lumps, boy. Time's a-wasting. Didn't you hear me call you to breakfast, son?" Cook wakes Jason up for some breakfast, and instantly Jason just goes into kill mode and just grabs him by the throat. This is also an interesting scene because it's the first time ever that we see Jason sleeping and doing normal human activities. We always assume that Jason never sleeps and he's like this Frankenstein monster that's just a fucking unstoppable, mindless force of evil, but in this comic we're really seeing a different side to Jason, so it's interesting. For some reason he lets Cook go, another thing that goes against everything that we know about Jason, and he comes downstairs to join the family for breakfast. Everybody's sat down, ready to tuck into some scrambled brains, and it just shows again that this whole family's life revolves around killing people and then eating them. They also question Jason as to why he doesn't eat anything. Obviously Jason is a walking corpse, he's a fucking giant zombie. As much as he must need sleep, apparently by this comic he needs sleep, he doesn't need food intake to keep himself going. So while all these guys are eating, they're questioning why Jason won't touch his dinner. And Cook's like, "What's the matter, Jason? You ain't hungry, boy? You didn't touch a thing on your plate last night." And then Hitchhiker's like, "Maybe he's one of them there vegetarians. There's no need to be calling company foul names. You got better manners than that." This must be like calling someone a bitch in prison to the Sawyer family, and it instantly starts in them two kicking off and arguing, and as hands start getting thrown, Jason witnesses this and it sets off some more flashbacks in his head. And Jason starts relating this to his own obviously abusive upbringing with a father that used to smack him around the mouth and chase him around the family home. But before we're able to even dig deeper into his psyche, the argument is already over. Cook has brought Jason out of his flashback and he's offering him a tour of the family home cooking kitchen. And we get this really nice big panel showing like a real wide angle view of the Sawyer kitchen. And there's loads going on in this page. We've got a couple of teenagers that are strung up and half disemboweled and chopped up. We've got a leg on the countertop that's been half hacked up with a meat cleaver. There's blood everywhere. There's shit in the sink. And then we get the title of the book, A Day in the Life. Cook ends up giving Jason a full tour of the premises. He shows him the chest freezer and the smokehouse, which are both full of dead bodies. And then he actually has like this weird heart-to-heart with Jason. He tells him, he's like, yo, I genuinely like you, dude. You're not like these other peckerwoods that I have to live in this house with. I feel like I can really tell you stuff. So he explains to him that eventually he would like to expand his business and not just make barbecue locally. And he'd like to open like a fine dining cuisine restaurant. There's also this mad drawing where Cook's trying the chili and there's a human finger stuck in his mouth. And then we've got Hitcher who's banging on the window, also competing for Jason's attention. It's like they're all excited to have this new guest in the house, and one that they're not trying to kill, one that they feel they can all share their passions with, so he's trying to get Jason to come outside with him. He tells Jason that he wants to show him his pet dog Sparky, so he starts yanking on the chain, saying, "Damn it, dog, when I say come out, you come out!" So he's yanking on the chain like a fucking horrible cunt, and then when we see the dog, we see that the dog's dead. Hitchhiker then talks about how he used to point a gun at the dog's head and the dog never used to run away and how brave it was. So we don't quite know whether he killed the dog himself or whether he found it dead and just brought it home. It also shows once again that this family doesn't really understand death and they will keep things alive even after they've died, whether they're pets or relatives. But either way, the manner in which this guy treats this dog, whether it's dead or alive, just proves once again that Hitchhiker is a fucking scumbag. Cook then tells Hitchhiker that he's got to get some work done and that he needs to head on down the gas station. We know that the gas station is one of the places that the Sawyer family pick up their victims. So Hitchhiker jumps in his tow truck and heads on down the road. We then cut to a married couple who are in a car arguing about petrol, and just as they pull up to the gas station, they're greeted by Hitchhiker. "Howdy, what do I do you folks for?" The dude's wife is suitably scared. "Fill her up, please, and you, check under the hood." "Everything's okie dokie, mister," Hitchhiker says as he's secretly ripping parts out of the engine. He offers them some barbecue and then sends them on their way, and we get this really fucking sinister drawing of him licking his lips. I love the shadows and the inking on this artwork. Hitchhiker then speeds home. We see another little fucking horrible picture of dead Sparky in the bottom corner. He bursts into the kitchen like, "Come on, Bubba, grab your saw. We got ourselves some groceries to pick up." Again, just showing that this family see humans as nothing more than food. We've got Leatherface cutting up a naked chick in the kitchen, Cook stirring the chili pot. And then Cook makes the suggestion that Hitchhiker should maybe take Jason with him out on this run and let Leatherface sit this one out, which obviously Leatherface isn't happy about. And Cook's like, "I know you like riding in the truck, Bubba, but you can't have fun all the time now, can you? Be a big boy and let Jason ride with Hitchhiker this time, okay?" When we're brought back to the married couple, we see that Hitchhiker really did do a number on their engine because now their car's broken down and not working. So they're stomping about in the middle of the road, arguing, and this is the perfect opportunity for Hitchhiker to approach him and talk some shit before smashing dude in the head with a fucking hammer. What douche! He proper takes a chunk out the top of his head, and as he's smashing him on the floor, the woman's screaming, she turns round to escape and boom! Crashes straight into Jason, who's just stood there waiting for her. The drawing of her face is fucking awesome. She looks terrified as she stares at Jason, who's got these dead fucking completely black eyes under his hockey mask. She tries to scream, "Ah!" as Jason lifts her off the ground and snaps her neck with one hand. But what happens next shows the difference between Jason and the Sawyer family. Jason kills people quick. He doesn't do it for pleasure. It's like something he can't control. He just fucking kills. Whereas the Sawyer family like to chase people around listening to them scream and squawk for hours. And Hitchhiker says, you don't just kill them straight away. You're supposed to chase them around and listen to them scream. Especially the women. They're the ones that scream the most. Especially when they've got a bun in the oven. Like I said, scumbag. Hitchhiker is genuinely pissed off that Jason killed the woman too quick. He tells him that Leatherface is the best at making women scream and that he's way more fun to take out on a run. And for me personally, this is one of the best bits of the comic. This is when we really see the difference between these two franchises. Hitchhiker and Jason then make their way back to the Sawyer farm. Cook checks out the meat that they've collected. He said he'd prefer it if they were young'uns because young'uns have meat that's much more tender, but beggars can't be choosers. Again, they refer to the dead bodies as just groceries, and Hitchhiker then asks Cook if he can show Jason his hobby, to which Cook says, yeah, you've done all your work for the day, go show Jason what you get up to when you're not killing people. So Hitchhiker leads Jason out to an old barn, and he tells him, this here's my workshop. Cook gives me a hard time about it. He says I'm more interested in working on my hobby than I am in doing chores. But you see, to me, it's a lot more than some stupid hobby like collecting scalps or deformed fetuses in jars. It's my art. And we see that Hitchhiker's got this barn that's just full of furniture and house decor that's made out of dead people and body parts. He's got hanging plants in skulls. He's got chairs made out of human corpses. There's a dead freestanding woman that's been turned into a double lampstand. There's a dude that's got a checkers board on his back. He's had his head cut open, presumably to keep checkers pieces inside. In the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, we can see that the house is full of decor and furniture that's created from human body parts, and this gives us a bit of an explanation as to who's been building it all. You can tell that the Hitchhiker's really proud of everything that he's created. He's buzzing to show Jason his art. And he's excited to show somebody outside the family all the stuff that he's been creating. He's also got a dead Father Christmas, and he tells Jason that he's going to wheel it out and put it on the lawn during the holidays. It's fucking random. He has no explanation as to why. His nose lights up. It's fucking awesome. So just as we're getting to know a little bit more about the Hitchhiker's hobbies, we hear a crash, and we see that Leatherface has tried to sit in one of his chairs and broke it. Hitchhiker's fucking fuming. He's like, you shouldn't be in my workshop. I told you, don't come in my fucking workspace. Leatherface is cowering. As much as Leatherface is this scary killer, when it comes to his brothers and his family, he's scared of them. He don't want it with them. Hitchhiker starts wailing on Leatherface, smashing him and smacking him round the face. Smack, smack. And whilst Jason is watching all this, he starts getting more flashbacks. He starts remembering his dad, beating him up, smacking him around, chasing him around the house and bullying him. Jason locks himself in his bedroom and his dad walks in, calling him a freak and a sissy. But as he walks into Jason's bedroom, we see that waiting for him is Jason's mum, Pamela Voorhees, machete in hand. She steps up, whoosh, black, fuck off, slams the machete dead centre in the middle of the dude's skull and kills him. When we cut back to what's going on in the barn, Jason's now got Hitchhiker by the wrist. Hitchhiker turns round like, what the hell do you think you're doing, boy? And Jason just fucking launches him to the other side of the room and sends him crashing into some wooden crates. Now, just going back to the flashback for a minute, it's also interesting to note that the story of Jason having an abusive father and his mum killing his dad in front of him is not something that's explored in any other Friday the 13th property. Basically, all this history and lore of Jason being raised in an abusive household and exposed to violence at a really young age was all created just for this storyline. So after Jason throws Hitchhiker across the room, he then extends his hand out to Leatherface. As I've said before, this is the only time we ever see Jason ever acting like this. Usually he kills everybody. This is the first time we ever see Jason extend his hand to help someone. This obviously fucking pisses off Hitchhiker, and to show Jason how much he doesn't care about getting hurt, he recreates a scene from the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, pulls out his pocket knife and cuts his hand open in front of him. Hitchhiker tells Jason that he's fucking invincible and nothing can hurt him. Jason, wanting to put this to the test, reaches down to the ground and picks up a piece of shattered leg bone. Hitchhiker, who looks like he's now shitting himself, starts to cower as Jason raises the bone high above his head, just about to smash it into his chest when Leatherface stops him. Jason lowers the bone, and this shows us the only time ever that Jason's restrained himself from killing someone, and it shows how much of a bond these two mass serial killers have made now. Jason doesn't even turn around and smash Hitchhiker when he's there taunting him, calling him a chicken. Hitchhiker then turns round to Leatherface, calling him every name under the sun, and leaves him crying as he leaves the barn. We then get a little bit more exposition as to what could be going on inside Jason's head and why he's acting so out of the ordinary. He should have killed him. Why didn't he? Why should this time be different from any other time in his existence? Never in the decades since his resurrection has Jason once hesitated when it came to killing. In fact, everything about the last few days has been atypical. Perhaps being separated from the familiar environments of Crystal Lake was responsible for this strange change in his behaviour. Jason's mind has been flooded with memories of what it was like before, confusing him. Jason has known nothing but hate and anger for so many years, these strange new emotions frighten him. He needs time to think, which is also alien to him as well. Back at Camp Crystal Lake, there had been no thought, only action. Those who dared to know love and life were to be punished, and Jason punished them. Things were so much simpler back then. Jason's thoughts are interrupted by Cook, who has heard about the fight between him and Hitchhiker and has come upstairs to apologise on behalf of him. This is also another weird sentimental moment because Cook sees that Jason is looking at a family photograph of the Sawyer family. He tells Jason that he had a sister called Velma. She was the mother of Hitchhiker and Leatherface, and on her deathbed, he promised her that he would look after her kids after she died. She knew that Grandpa and Grandma were too old to look after them, so he stuck around and raised them himself. He explains to Jason that he had to stick to the oath that he made her because they're his sister's sons, but then they're also her brothers, and it's a long story. But we know that this family's fucked up and inbred, so none of this shit surprises us. This is still a really deep moment though, I feel, because amongst all this cannibalistic, debaucherous shit that they've got going on, Cook's dream was to go and open a restaurant, but rather than do that, he stuck to the oath that he made his sister. It shows that somewhere inside his soul, he does still kinda have a moral compass and a heart, and he is loyal to his own people. And as he asks Jason to give him a hand lifting Grandpa, we get to see the family portrait. We get to see a young Cook, and we get to see a living and breathing Aunt Amelia. We see Grandpa in a much younger day, with his arm around a child version of Hitchhiker. Behind them stands his sister, Velma, holding the baby, which we know will one day grow up to become Leatherface. So there we have it, issue 2 of Jason vs Leatherface, and the title, A Day in the Life, is so fitting because this literally is just a random day in the life of what goes on in the world of the Sawyer family. We see them eating, we see them going out and hunting for human victims to bring back and then eat. We see them arguing amongst themselves. It's literally just them doing what they do every day, and Jason's just witness to it all. Like I said earlier, I love how we see the different dynamics of the different killers kill and how they approach killers and how their brain works. Jason being this force of nature that just takes heads off with one swing, and the Sawyers that like to chase victims around listening to them scream for hours before they kill them. And then delving more into the history of the Sawyer family and of Jason. This is the most time that we've ever spent in the minds of these guys ever. No movie ever explores the characters as deep as this comic does. And very much like the first issue, yeah, we've got the victims running around getting killed and the gore and the horror stuff, but this is a human story about these two characters. Human, if you can even call them that, but these two very much being the centre of the story. I've got lots of Leatherface and Jason comics, and they're always about the victims, they're always about the human story with these guys running around and chasing them. I love that this story is just about those two guys as the central characters. And as much as the comic is crazy and it's about these violent fucking serial killing fucking messed up people, we still get these moments where we delve deeper into their hearts and souls and their brains and have these parts that almost pull on your fucking heartstrings. I love when media does that, when it makes you see different ways of how a person's brain works. I think this is fucking awesome, and I can't wait to get into issue 3 where we see the face-off, the final part, the concluding issue of Jason vs Leatherface. If you enjoyed today's video, please don't forget to give it a like, and if you're not already subscribed to the channel, I'd also like to hear what was your favourite part of this comic. So in the comments below, let me know. Also let me know if there's any other comic book crossovers that you think I should be covering, and let me know what's your favourite comic. Let's chop it up in the comments below and get some comic book conversation popping. You can also get at me on Instagram at Theo_Kane_Slimehouse. I try and post lots of exclusive content on there every single day. And if you want to be a slime renegade and help make Slimehouse bigger and better than ever, for just $1 a month, you can head over to patreon.com/SlimehouseTV and become a slime renegade. Also, we've got lots of cool exclusive t-shirts coming out every single month for the rest of the year, so head over to slimehousestore.com and see which ones pop in this month. They're always exclusive, they run for 1 month, pre-order only, then it ends. You'll never get that t-shirt again, so head over to slimehousestore.com and see if there's anything you fancy. With all that being said, I'm going to catch you in the next video. My name's Theo Kane. Pow!